Well, in a bloody attack today, 2 Palestinians armed with a meat cleaver and a gun killed 5 Jewish worshippers in a Jerusalem synagogue. Police shot and killed both suspects in what many are calling one of the most vicious attacks in the city with a long history of political and religious violence. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the attack, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to respond with a heavy hand. He accused President Abbas of inciting a recent spate of attacks on Jews. Well, Elie Jacobs is a foreign policy analyst with the firm M Public Affairs. Welcome to Arise.
Thanks for having me.
This seems, Elie, to be a never-ending saga here. And on the one hand, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu says, look, we need you guys to denounce this. Mahmoud Abbas does, but that's apparently not enough.
It's always a difficult thing to know exactly what's happening on the Palestinian side. There's a lot of secrecy that goes on. There's a lot of mistrust between the different factions. Oftentimes, the Palestinian leaders, this goes back to Yasser Arafat, they'll say one thing in English and say something very different in Arabic. And that is really where the most difficult thing for Netanyahu to deal with is, because he doesn't really know what's happening behind the scenes. Okay,
so you're saying he's a person that's really not in control of the situation there?
It's unclear exactly, I think, how much control he has over Hamas and Islamic Jihad and some of the more militant factions. Clearly, he has control of Fatah, his main party, and where he is in the West Bank, but it's very uncertain how much control he actually has in Gaza, and that was clear over the summer during the battles going on.
Well, indeed, and of course, the divisions there have been quite clear between Hamas, Fatah, and of course, Mahmoud Abbas and those parties there. What I want to ask you is, in a situation like this, and we know the tensions too well, the question is, do you think this was a spontaneous attack? Do you think this was organized? Do you think this was the act of some madman? What do you think?
I truly hope that it was spontaneous and it was just an act of madness. I can't say whether or not it was organized. You just never know for sure. Chances are it was not. Chances are it was very spontaneous. Apparently it's unconfirmed, I believe, but at this point there's belief that both the killers were working in the neighborhood that these attacks happened. It's a far west Jerusalem, ultra-Orthodox community, very removed from any of the lines that could be drawn in the future. Whether it was spontaneous, I think we'll never know for sure, but there's been so much incitement going on both sides in the last few months that it's, spontaneity at some point is just bred automatically.
Well, yeah, I think I would certainly agree with you there on this. Now, Elie, of course, we've seen and witnessed, over the summer, these rocket attacks, of course, coming from the West Bank. And that, of course, spurred all sorts of violence. Israel goes in, it's kind of like a mini invasion, if you were. That quelled, and of course, we got peace once again. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, says that he wants to respond with a heavy hand, quote unquote. What does that mean, in your opinion?
With Netanyahu, you never know what heavy hand means. Heavy hand to many people would mean that he just goes in for a full invasion, which he clearly didn't do this summer. Clearly, that was sort of a light footprint sort of thing, despite the fact that there were so many innocent civilians lost. What he does in the West Bank will likely in no way, shape, or form resemble what happened in Gaza. The first thing that they're going to do, which has been Israeli policy for many years, both on several prime ministers now, is they'll likely destroy the homes of the terrorist family. They'll likely shut down some of the crossings. Apparently, they're going to be setting up checkpoints in Jerusalem, from East Jerusalem to West Jerusalem, which haven't really been in place for several decades now. So there'll be lockdowns in certain areas. Whether or not there'll be military invasions, I'd be very surprised if there are.
That's amazing, too. We're coming into a holiday season for many people who worship in that area here, and we yet to see exactly what will happen and what a heavy hand will mean. Hopefully it won't mean what many of us think it might. But I want to thank you for your insight in this subject matter in this area, Elie. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And, of course, you're watching Arise, America.